So if you're new here, my name is Krissy and this is my channel 2 Sheep 1 Wheat. If there is a game out there that you would love for me to review, please let me know what that is down in the comments below. Like this video, and of course go ahead and subscribe to the channel if you have not already. So like I was saying, this video is on Ark Nova. Ark Nova is all about these animals in this zoo and the pens, the enclosures that they're going to be placed into. So let's go ahead and take a look at the board and see how this game works. So let's go ahead and talk about these cards here first. These are a pretty big component in the game. These are zoo cards, and we have a couple of different cards here out on the display. This card here is the sponsor card, and of course we have animal cards like these ones. And then we also have this green card here, which is a conservation project card. And along with these ones that are mixed in with the zoo deck, we also have extra ones that are a little bit more permanent that are going to stay out. Now, depending on how many players you have, it will determine how many cards come out here. And these ones will stay here for the whole time, and you are only allowed to have one cube on here. And I'll get to how you can place your cubes on here a little bit later on in the video. Now the option on both of these boards, we'll go over the main board here. So there are a few different tracks on this board. We have this one right here. This one is a ticket. This ticket track here is the appeal. So how appealing your zoo is to people. And then we have the green track up top, and that is the conservation track, which kind of goes with these conservation cards right here. They have the icons here, and basically playing these cards or being able to build up your zoo enough that you have enough to be able to do this will gain you those conservation points on the green track right there. And then we have this track right here, which is where our cards are, and that will allow you to select cards depending on where you are up on this track. That track right there is the population track. This board right here is basically the main game board that we're going to play with, and then this board here is the association board. And how you're going to use these two boards are basically these cards down here. These are your action cards, and every player starts with them. The animal card here is the very first one, and the rest are all shuffled. Now there are options within the game on either board here to upgrade these cards, and on the back of these cards are just basically a little bit more of a bonus on them for you to take throughout the game. Now there's just a little bit of a setup here. Obviously we're placing cards down, we're getting our boards ready and everything, but there are a couple of empty spots here. These ones are permanently on the board, and you'll be able to just select random ones like this to place them up here so that whenever you move up on the conservation track, you'll be able to select one of these options here to help you progress in the game. So I will mention this right now. There are only 4 ways to upgrade your action cards that are down here. And the first option is the one on the conservation track right here. And if you choose an extra worker instead, then you won't be able to use this, and you'll only have 3 of these cards upgraded. Now this is important to mention because on certain tracks and places on your board, I will point this one out here, you need the cards action card, which is this one right here, the cards that will allow you to draw some cards. I'll go over the actions a little bit later on, but to be able to up your track up here, you need to have that flipped over and upgraded to actually even be able to gain any of these bonuses up here. Now, if you look at your board here, there is this other one right here. This is the build action card that needs to be upgraded to be able to build special tiles. Once your appeal track and your conservation track meet or pass each other, that's what's going to end the game, and you're going to count up all of your points, and whoever has the most points at the end of the game is the winner. Now let's go ahead and look over all of these action cards and see how we actually play this game. So the player mat is set up something similar to this. This is the beginner map. This is map A, and it just starts you off a little bit differently here to help you out in the game. So like I was saying earlier, animals is always the first card in the first spot. All the other cards, the action cards, are going to be shuffled and placed at random in the other slots. These slots here are the strength at which you can play these cards. So right now, the animals, playing an animal card, is at the slot number 1. That's the strength of it. So here you wouldn't actually be able to play any cards. But the more that it moves up in these different slots, the higher you'll be able to play cards. So if it reaches the strength 5 slot right here, you'll actually be able to play 2 cards from your hand. Everybody starts with 8 cards in their hand, and you must go through them, and you have to pick whichever ones that you want and discard 4 cards. All of the discarded cards go face up into the discard pile right there, and the 4 cards that you have remaining in your hand are the ones that are going to stay in your hand. They're going to stay in your hand secret so that nobody knows what they are, and you want to make sure that you kind of have cards that are going to help you out to be able to score you some final scores here with these cards here. Now everybody starts with 2 cards, and either reaching 10 on the conservation track right here, or if nobody does get to that spot on the conservation track, at the end of the game, whenever it's triggered, you get to choose one. So you'll only ever be able to score one. So really looking at these and making sure that they pair up with some of your cards so that you can at least get some of them is really, really good. So we have those. So you have starting hand with animals in it, so you won't have to wait until it gets to the 5th strength spot right here. You'll be able to play it depending on where it is and what cards that you have and you can play. Then we go to association right here. So this one is perform one association task with the minimum value of the strength location that it's in. So taking the association action is partnering up with a zoo or partnering up with a university. And that is the association board right here. And to use this, you have to have a person. There are other ways to unlock it from the main board here and also from your player mat here. So the way that you use that, any time that you use any of these actions, you're going to pull them down so that everybody knows which action you're actually doing. So the association ones, you would take this, and since this is in a 2 spot, the same applies for the association board. It does have all of the strengths on them. So this one you would only be able to take a 2 here, and you would go up on the reputation track, which is here, and you can tell by the icon. If you had enough strength to be able to come here, this is partnering with a zoo. Now, whenever you partner with zoos, it does something. So let's say we wanted to take this one here. We're going to place it right here. So anytime that you have a card in your hand, an animal card in your hand that has the same location and icon as the one that you have a partnership with, that animal is going to cost 3 less to place it into your zoo. Now, if we had a strength of 4, this is partnering up with a university. So there are a couple different ones here. And so normally you can only have 3 cards in your hand. This one will allow you to have 5 cards in your hand. Plus, it'll allow you to go up on the reputation track 1 spot. These ones right here are the research tags. That will just give you extra tags because some of the cards that you have will need a tag. This one needs a partnership. This one needs a primate icon. So all of these cards are going to have different tags or icons on them that are going to be needed to play certain cards. So these ones will help you get those tags out. And then of course this one just has the 1 research tag with 2 of the reputation to go up on the track. Now once you get an established zoo, you'll be able to use this last action right here. This will allow you to place one of your cubes onto a conservation project card. Now again, once your zoo is established, you'll have a lot more cards in your zoo, in your pile here, and so whenever you place cards, you're going to place them like this. All of the icons are just directly at the top here so that you can tell which cards that you have, and it's a lot easier to keep track if you have 2 birds here, like these icons, these tags that I have. Now whenever you place it on here to do one of these conservation projects, you're going to use your cubes that are right here. This will unlock either a fast action right away, or this one is a fast action you'll collect right away, but you'll also get it at the end of each break. I'll go over what breaks are and how that happens in just a little bit. So let's go ahead and just use this one. So this will unlock the conservation track, so you can go up 1 on there, and then you place your cube on here, and that'll give you 2 extra conservation points, so that'll bring you up to 3. Now when you're going up on this track, some things unlock here, which are these yellow tokens right here. These are going to unlock for you. So as soon as you get onto the spot, that is what you're going to be able to collect. So that is the last one. These ones stay here all the time. Now you do have the option here to place one of your own cards if you have any in your hand. I don't have any in my hand here, but if you had, say, this one in your hand, you would be able to place this one on the top here, and you could place your own cube on whichever one that corresponds with it. Now, there are some cards like this that you'll need to release an animal from your zoo. So if you do have the specific one, you can just release it. Any points that you have collected from it will go away, will be reduced on the track, but you will gain the benefit that is on that card. Now, anytime another conservation card is played, you just simply push it down, and depending on how many players there are is how far along it's going to go before it disappears. And once you have the association card upgraded, now you'll be able to, now something unlocks here, and that is making a donation. So making a donation is simply taking your cube, placing it on an open spot, 2-player game set up here, so some do get blocked off, and that'll give you an extra conservation point. So that is association. Now we go on to build. Build is building within your zoo, and you're going to need enclosures to place any of your animals in here now. So like I said, we're playing with map A here, so we do start with a size 3 enclosure, but the game does come with all different sizes, which you can see right here on the board. All different sizes. There are kiosks and pavilion. Pavilion will give you a peel, and just on the other side here, and the kiosks here will give you money whenever you do an income turn, which is after break. So we have all of these different tiles here. Now, whenever you are paying for a tile or whenever you're building one of these standard enclosures, each space that it's going to take up is going to cost you $2 to build it. So if you're building this 5 enclosure, this 5 space enclosure here, that's going to cost you $10. Now, anytime you cover up any of these icons here, those are benefits that you're going to get right away. So basically playing this one for 10, you have to have the money up front to be able to pay for it, but this one, because I did cover up the 5 here, I would be able to get $5 back. So that is how you build them. And then when you're playing an animal from your hand, you have to have the enclosure to be able to put them in it. So say this is the one that I played. I already have the enclosure here built. You can place a 5 or lower in this location right here. This one you'd be able to place a 3 and lower. So it can't be a higher number into the enclosure here. So if I'm placing this one, I'm paying the cost, I have the required icons for it, I can flip this over, and now that means that there is an animal in there. And now from my kiosk, it is going to generate some income after we do the break. So there are stipulations on here, and that is we are not allowed to build over rock or water. Some cards that you play, like this one here, require certain locations in your zoo next to water. This one is a 3 and it needs water, so technically I could flip this one over for it. And that would meet all of the cards requirements for that animal. And as you can see, there are 2 little locations right here on the board that it does need the build action to be upgraded to be able to build in these 2 spots right here. Now the same thing goes with building a building. It is in the strength slot here at 3. So to build a 5 like I did wouldn't necessarily be doable because I'm in the strength slot 3 here and I built a 5. So that just doesn't add up. Now there are these X tokens right here. If you are wanting to build a 5 enclosure and you're only in the strength slot 3, then you can add 2 of these X's, and it's basically going to add a number to this. So that would make it a 5 total, and I would be able to build that enclosure. So that is build. And then we go to cards. Now cards, like I mentioned, would need to be upgraded if you wanted to pass up on the reputation track up here, because bonuses are a little bit better over here. So if you want to, then you can get those. If you wanted to upgrade your cards action and then go up on this track, you would also be able to, whenever it says take a card from the display, now you have the option, all 6 of these zoo cards here. Now, one way to get out of being so restricted to where your reputation marker is on the card action here. There is just down here snapping. So the only time that you can snap is if you have a strength of 5, and snapping is basically taking from anywhere on the display and taking it directly to your hand. That is it. Now, anywhere else is drawing cards from the deck, and depending on what strength slot you're in, you either discard 1 card or none at all. If you manage to get this to the strength 5 slot right here, you can draw 3 cards from the top of the deck, and then you get to check them out, look to see what they are, and discard 1 card. And keep these to your hand. And then aside from taking cards, you can also take a break. So this is where the break track comes in. Now at a 2-player, this is where you start. If you have 3 players or 4 players, that's where they're going to start. Now breaking here is going to move the tracker up towards the break 2 spots. And again, on the sponsor card right here, it will allow you to break for whichever strength location spot here on the board. So if I'm at 5, you would move it up 5 spots. So to bring you up all the way up to there. And then because you took the break action from the sponsors card right here, the action card, you can gain that much money as well. Now, if you don't want to do that, I'll come back to the break token here after we talk about the sponsor card. So sponsor card is play 1 sponsor card from your hand with a maximum of strength that the slot it's in. So that basically is these cards right here. It will have the icon at the top of its strength, and of course, depending where it is in where the sponsor action card is in your slots here, that is depending on the strength of the card that you can play. Now, this one right here has a blue and brown. That means that there's going to be an end game bonus for you. And because whenever you place your cards all out, you'll be able to see that icon, and at the end of the game, you'll know that you need to look at that card to score anything. Same with this one, it does have an end game bonus. Now, all of these cards are just some kind of bonus that's going to give you whenever somebody plays a card, or whenever you yourself play a card, or whenever you're playing the card down right away. Like this one here, each time you build at least one building with the build action, which is this card right here, you may build exactly one more of the same kind, except special enclosures here because you're only allowed one in your zoo. So all of them have some kind of effect, which you can read and also see by the icons up top. So whenever you're playing the card, you read it, and then you can stack them like this. And the iconography in this game, I think, is pretty good. There is an icon overview sheet that this game does come with. So if you have any questions, you can definitely get the answers too. But it is nice that it does give the description as well as the iconography at the top for you. So that was sponsor. Now let's say somebody else, the next player, took a break action and they took it for 2 because they used their cards. They would move it up 2. Now we're at the break. So basically whenever the break icon gets to the beginning of the break spot on this track here, the board basically gets reset. You get all of your workers back and you gain some income based on what is in your zoo. So that's what's going to happen. All of the icons are on the track right here. So you're going to discard down to your hand size. So normally it is 3, but if you do go to the conservation board over here, you have the option to select this one for the university and place it down here. So if it is in your zoo, then you do get a hand of size 5. Then there are some cards in here that are a negative effect to another player, and there are ×2 right here. So that is placing it on your action, and it'll allow you to take an extra turn. Basically, it'll allow you to do that action twice. So all of those icons come off if you haven't used them, or if they are still there by the start of break. Then we reset the conservation board right here. All of your workers do come back into your notebook right here. Any tokens that were taken off get replenished, and you just place them like that. So this basically limits only one player from taking one specific token. The rest are open up for any of the other players that wants to take them, but if somebody takes the one that you want, you'll have to wait until the end of break for the next turn for you to acquire it. And then these 2 top cards come off. So whenever a card is taken, everything does get shuffled down just to allow other people who are lower down on the reputation track to be able to afford them or be able to collect them. Once you're finished your turn and all the cards that you've taken are removed, then everything gets shuffled down and replenished. So at the end of break, you're going to remove the 2 cards and you're going to shuffle everything down. These go into the discard. And then you get to replenish these 2 cards right here. And after everything is all done, you've collected all of your workers, you reset all of the zoo cards, then you can collect your income, which is step 5 right here. So a few different ways to collect income in the game. You collect income based on where your peel marker is. So say I'm at 16, I would collect $16 for this. Then if I have any kiosks on my board with enclosures that have animals in them, that'll also give you money. So this would be 1 per enclosure touching the kiosk. So that would be 16, 17, 18. And then if you would have any sponsor cards in your zoo that you have played, that will give you some kind of income or maybe an X marker or something at the end of break, then you would be able to collect that too. So basically anything that has a hand like this is going to be an income, which brings us to this track right here too. So since I was able to do a conservation project over here, that opened this up, and it does have a hand over here. It is purple, so I would actually get 1 point on the conservation track as well. If I had this one taken off, then I would actually end up with 16, 17, 18, $23 because I would continuously get the $5 at the end of break. So now the first person who started the break will also get an X token. So once all 6 of these have been met, then the break token gets reset and you start basically the round all over again. Now, just a few quick rules that I don't want to miss because they're a little important in this game. Kiosks, when you're building kiosks in your zoo, there's a little image here. You can't place kiosks next to each other. They have to be at least 2 spaces away from the other one. And then you're only allowed to have 5 X tokens here on your zoo at all times. You can't have any more than 5. And then another thing, whenever you're partnering up with zoos and universities, whenever you're covering these 2 up right here are going to be one of the 2 of the 4 ways to be able to upgrade your cards, your action cards. So covering those up will do that. These 2 right here will give you conservation points, and this one will allow you to get a worker out. Always start with the bottom one working up, because once you collect the 3rd one here, you're going to gain another 2 conservation points. And of course here, if you do not have your association card upgraded, you won't be able to partner with any more zoos. And there are 5 zoos that you can partner with, but there are only 4 slots. So once you have that 4th one, those are the zoos that you are partnered with. And then, like I was saying earlier, whenever the reputation track and the conservation track, once your markers have met in the same spot or have passed each other, that is an indication that the game is done. And then you're going to have to calculate your points to see who the winner is. The person with the most points is the winner. Now, the way that you calculate with this, since there are 2 tracks, you're going to count the difference between both tracks. If you have passed it, it will be a positive point. But if you have not met it and another player has met theirs, but you haven't, and that's what ended the game, it will be a negative point mark. And if every player is in the negative, then whoever is the least negative is going to be the winner. So the track on this one is just a little bit different. I really like how the score points work, and you can kind of slowly see the end nearing. And I really like that whenever you take a break, it's just basically an income phase. You're just replenishing the board and you're collecting all your pieces back. And it's just kind of a reset. It's basically just an end of a round. And you, the person, or the people who are playing the game, make the end of the round. So I really enjoy that. And it's not like 8 rounds and then that's the end of the game. It quite literally is just depending on how fast you build up your zoo, how fast you're building pens to place the animals in, and how large your zoo gets and how many workers you have so that you can place it on the conservation board, and a lot of things. There's a lot to think about in this game, and lots of different strategies too. You can go a complete different way from the player that you're playing with, and whoever triggered the end of the game isn't necessarily the player who's going to win, because there are end game bonuses like the 2 cards that you start with at the beginning of the game. If you, depending on how many you've completed, that's going to be how many conservation points that you're going to get at the end of the game. So nobody knows if you've met this and how well you've actually done at it. The most conservation points you can get is 4 for these. And then of course the sponsor cards, those ones, if you could get the end game bonuses for those and pay attention to what they are so that you can actually score them at the end too, then those are going to get you a lot as well. Money unfortunately isn't a factor to points at the end of the game. So I found with this game, the more that you, like the further on that the game went, you ended up with a lot of money. If you fill it, there's an option here too. If you fill up your zoo, then it's going to give you an extra 7 reputation. So that would help too. But there's just so much strategy with this game, because if you build up your zoo too early, then you don't have any room for any animals, and then you're not getting any of the points for any of the tracks. You're not going to move up on it if you build it up too soon. So I think that a lot of strategy here, because you can place, technically you can place a 1 animal in a 5 enclosure, but then you're taking up 5 spots for something if you wanted to play 4 other cards in just 1 slot, you know? So you're limiting yourself depending on how. I would say that you'd have to play a game for sure to figure out, not even to figure out a strategy, but definitely get a feel for the game. And honestly, I've tried totally different strategies every single time that I've played this game. And only 1 time has it worked for me. I was really hoping, if you missed our live for this one, I can link it here and down in the description below if you wanted to watch it after you finish this video. Yeah, I thought I had it in the bag, and I didn't. And that's usually how this game goes for me. So I still haven't found the strategy that works for me. But I can guarantee you, I can say this for certain, that I do enjoy this game a lot more than Terraforming Mars, which I've heard so many people compare those two games. I can definitely see the similarities with the tags and the icons and the cost and everything. I think that this one might be a little bit better put together for my likings. Terraforming Mars is a space theme, which is much more up my alley than building zoos, but I think this game is just put together a little bit more. So if you are not completely satisfied with Terraforming Mars, or if Terraforming Mars isn't your game, your favorite game, I wouldn't discount this one. I would definitely give it a try because I really enjoy it. This is definitely my pick over Terraforming Mars for sure. And if we're going to continue comparing it to Terraforming Mars, the artwork, this one definitely looks better too. I will go, you know what, let's go to the table and we'll just look at a couple of cards. Let's look at a couple of cards. There is a lot of cards, as you can see. There is a whole slew of them. So one thing with this game, you do need the icons to make this game work. And there are a lot of cards, and I was kind of scared that I wasn't going to find enough of the icons, or I wasn't going to get enough of the scores here, like this one down at the bottom, or get enough of the tags that you need for the prerequisites. Like some of these, you need the cards upgraded to be able to even play them. I thought because of this game, the way that it was, that I wouldn't necessarily come across any of the icons that I actually needed to be able to build up my zoo well enough to be able to get any of these conservation cards, or the ones that are already out here, or even my final, like these final scoring cards here. I wasn't quite sure. Now, I was very surprised with this game. It took us a little bit to read the rules. There are a lot in this game, but once you get through your first game, it won't be too bad. You'll understand it. It's almost like an easy game, but the strategy in here is just so heavy that it'll take a couple of games before you actually even figure it out, I guess. But it is an easy game. And there are a lot with these ones here, with the sponsor cards, it's breaking some kind of rule. Like this one here, diversity research. This one will allow you to build on rocks and water, which will open up your zoo a little bit more. And you know, the possibilities with this one, gaining more points because go up on any of these tracks here because of the cards that you're playing for the animals that are taking up these extra spots that nobody else can build on. And that doesn't matter for your zoo, for completing it. So if you build up all your zoo, you still get the 7 points, and it doesn't, even if you're building up on the rocks and the water, that doesn't even matter. It doesn't even count. And there are literally so many tags in this game. I'll say it again. I did not expect it to work as well as it did. So I'm happy that there are a lot of cards, and you're not waiting for your card to come out. There's all different art on these cards, but not a lot. Some of them are pretty similar, right? So you're not waiting for your card to come out, but it's not so similar that it's almost annoying. It's the same thing, and you're really not getting what you want because it's all the same cards that are coming out with the same icons. Really none of that. I haven't found anything like that at all. And I really do enjoy all of these little blurbs down here, all the extra benefits and the bonuses that you get. And there are some fast actions on here, and these ones here have a 0 point, but these are petting zoos. So like I was saying, you can have reptile houses and large bird aviary here as a special enclosure. And you can only do these special ones whenever you have the build action flipped over and upgraded. But with that, you can actually do petting zoos, and it's a special building that you place out. You can only have one, but you're actually using your cubes right here to place it on it. And it's kind of, you can have a couple different petting zoo animals. Now it has to be specific to the petting zoo animals, which is this icon right here, a little goat. And then you can have 3 cubes on there. So it's basically saving you space on your board, on your zoo. Lots of stipulations to these two, but I really didn't find them too restricting. And a lot of them, if you are paired up with the other zoos around the world, give you some kind of credit whenever you're purchasing these animals, is the only thing that I can think about, right? You're trading these animals, you're purchasing them to place them into your zoo. So yeah, so a lot of these cards, like a whole bunch of cards in here, but they all pretty much have the same icon. So there are only, I think, 5 different animals and 5 different ones of those, but 5 different animals from all around the world. So it definitely makes it just a little bit easier to play the game, right? But again, like I said, strategy. And with this strategy, you really need to see some of the cards. The display for this one is 6 cards. You have to obviously go up on the track here to be able to collect different cards, but the option is there if you want to take from the display because you already know what it is, or you have the option to take from the top of the deck. So if you're not seeing anything, you at least still have the option that you can take from the top of the deck. And everybody's turn, all their actions are all visible for all the other players to see. So a few people that had thought that maybe players' actions might have been a little bit too obvious to other people if they're paying attention. I can tell you I wasn't really paying attention to Nick while he was playing this game, but you would think that people would play more of the higher strength spot cards, like the actions in the higher slots, just because you can do a little bit more. But upgrading your cards are really good because you can kind of play them wherever, and especially because those X tokens, like I was saying, they come up pretty frequently, so you can always use those ones. But you really kind of didn't really know where the other player was heading and what actions they were going to do next, just because, one, you're not paying too much attention to other players whenever you're playing this game. I feel like it is a little bit more of like a solitaire game. There's not much player interaction going on with this game at all. So really, I was kind of just ignoring Nick the whole time. So I wasn't really paying attention to what actions he was doing. I was really paying attention to my own actions and really focusing on winning the game. But yeah, the actions in the game, not as obvious as some people may think. At least I didn't think that way anyway. You can let me know in the comments if you've played this game and if you did think that way. But you know what? I did not start this video saying, so I really like this game. So I suppose now is a good time to say it, that I really did enjoy this game, especially when it's a better game than another game that I don't enjoy as much. And if there was something that I had to say that I didn't enjoy about the game, is how long the board is. This is a table hog. I don't think I've ever had the overhead zoomed out so far for a video before as this one. So the board is pretty long. It is a table hog. Might not fit on some people's tables. That is probably the one negative thing that I have to say about the game. But that would be it. So anyways, that is my overview and my review for Ark Nova. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it helped you make the decision if you want to get this game or not. And I will see you next time.